Can I have the clicker? There you go. Are we on? Yes. Welcome all. Coming half hour, we're going to focus on the new demands of new generations. We have a half an hour full of inspiration and confusion, I hope, with a lot of information to cover. And we're going to talk. Is it working? Technology, yeah, not too much about it. Here we go. Here's the storyline. We're going to talk about two generations, which will be defining the new demands of our industry. Then we go a bit more in the new demands of today. How does the post-COVID traveler redefines how we have to organize hospitality in the post-COVID world? But we're going to first start with talking about new generations. And the interesting part is there are three drivers which makes a generation stand out from the other one. First is technology. Interesting part is that everything before your 18th isn't seen as technology. It's just normal life. It's how you act, how you live your life. Secondly, it's the economic situation. Is the generation brought up in a recession or in prosperous times? That's really defining a generation. Generation X was raised in the crisis during the 80s, and the millennials were in the prosperous years of the beginning of the millennium. So three drivers, and we're first going to take a look at Gen Z. Gen Z is already entering the workplace, and when they enter the workplace, they have the money to go to hotels and be part of the hotel industry. It's a generation started from 2010 to 2010, and what really defines the generation, we're going to start with technology, where the millennials were the first generation with 24/7 internet access. This is the generation who've been raised with social media. And not just social media, with social media that's organized around micro-communities, about special interest groups. And the interesting part is, when you're finding your special interest group very early in life, you feel empowered to choose the identity who you want to be. And that's really a driver for this generation. In the past, every young kid had to fit in society. And now, very early in life, you find your preferences on gender, on hobbies, on sports, on whatever. If you go to Reddit, and how many people are here on Reddit? It's twice the size of LinkedIn. That's the place where there's a differentiation of every micro-community. If you cycle, if you love horse riding, if you're gay, or if you're gay and love horse riding, there's a subgroup of everything. And the empowering thing is that when you start identifying yourself early in life, it makes you more aware who you want to be. So that's technology, which creates a more identity-fluid generation. Secondly, it's the generation who want to be part of a purpose. It's the generation where a contribution to overall goals is more important than the individual. And if you see now how business is more and more organized, not in a process-driven organization, but more and more on an agile way where multidisciplinary groups are formed with one purpose to strive for, that's all based on the need of being part of a greater good. So individually, not the focus on the individual, but on the collective. Then, third driver, it's an entrepreneurial generation. And that's driven by technology as well. Because due to the internet, a lot of entrance barriers to become an entrepreneur are gone. It's easier to start a web shop. It's easier to be an influencer. It's easier to start a community group. So what we see here, in the past, you went to school, did some working experience, and then started your business. What we see now is that a lot of people entering the labor market with already being an entrepreneur. We have to get used that we have employees who are running their business besides it as well. So we're not only identity fluid, but also age fluid. And we see that not just only in the entrepreneurial side, but also in the life milestones of a traditional family. In the past, you grew up in a family with two parents. Then you go to school, fall in love, get married, get 2 children, and that was like the life pattern where the society was based on. And what we see now is families are organized in different ways. You can have 2 dads, 2 moms, or your parents are divorced. And in the past, your first romance or falling in love experience would be in your puberty, but now you'll probably see your mother finding a new love much earlier in life. So the life expectations and how we organize life is different. So you are earlier in life in touch with who you want to be, and you see that there are different ways to organize society. And that's, if you're wondering why the woke movement is so big, it's based on that we are organized already in a different way. 2 examples. Emma Watson, she's single, but she defines herself not as single. She said, I'm self-partnered. It's just how you want to see yourself. And this is Fien. Fien is a young girl of 15, and she is not hoping on Prince Charming on a white horse. She knows already that she will have a lot of more partners in her life than just one. So what we expect from life is shifting. And then, maybe the most important part, the uncertainty of the financial future. This Generation Z will be the first generation who will have it less than their parents. It's the first generation, due to student loans, due to the rising real estate prices of residential and living areas, that will not have the prosperous financial future as their parents. And that means that the contract with society is off the table. In the past, you work hard, fit in, and you were rewarded with your own house and your own car and being kind of independent. But now, even when you work hard, yourself and your partner, you're not able to afford that apartment in the city. So why bother? Why working for a goal which is not in reach anymore? This is not a lazy generation, but when you're not rewarded in the end, so why work 5 days a week? Just settle for less because the goal isn't there. So it's really defining this generation. And then, last but not least, we already found out that they're more focused on the collective and the purpose, but it's also more idealistic driven. Logical, when there's no economic goal, there's no blackmail to go for the economic goals, you just can be truly idealistic. But there's a reason to be that, because the climate change is there, and not only the economic situation is looming, but also the perspective of our planet. And that's not just being idealistic, it's a new reality for us as well. If you thought this summer was hot, just get used to it. And it will redefine our business, because going to Greece in summer with your family, with 45 degrees, you do it one season, maybe twice, and then you think, I'm going to move up in northern hemisphere of Europe to get a colder holiday. So redefining the tourist hotspots will become a new reality for us as an industry. And maybe Greece will become a spring destination instead of a summer destination. So let's summarize that. We have a generation which is identity fluid and age fluid, with less focus on traditional milestones. It's an open-minded generation. A generation with less perspective of economic successful future. So why wait? Tomorrow is now. And last but not least, they are activistic. They focus on the collective, they're purpose-driven. So we have a generation open-minded, tomorrow is now, and really activistic. If you bring that down to one sentence, where the millennials were focusing on do no harm, it's like the mission of Google, it's now redefined as doing the right thing. The example we just saw on stage is a brilliant example how you can motivate people to be part of hotels, of the hotel industry. So, just 2 examples of new lifestyles emerging from Gen Z. We have the anti-work movement. Yeah, why focus on those? They don't want to work. They really want to work, but they want to work not 5 days a week, and they don't want to work for a company that doesn't contribute to the society. So they're much pickier on which job you want to be a part of. And it's interesting because for the hotel industry, they have more spare time. So they have more time to be in the leisure industry. And secondly, the total opposite, the FIRE movement, the financial independence retire early movement. They work really hard, but they don't want to spend money. They don't use a lot of free time. So this is not your target group for your clients, but maybe you want to get them in your staff because they really work hard. But here you see that due to the different terms in society, new lifestyles are coming up, and we have to adjust to that. Key impact for our industry: be an ethical company. That's how you attract your clients and your staff. Focusing on the micro communities. A lot of organizations are focusing on social media, as in general terms, focusing on Facebook, focusing on Instagram. That's all too superficial. Really focusing in the target groups, targeting specific groups is much easier in the new social media like Reddit or Bread. And that's the next step in lifestyle targeting. So not only developing a lifestyle brand, but also focusing on the lifestyles where they are organized on the web. And what's next? What's next after Z? Because Z we know already. The next generation is Generation Alpha. And Alpha is the generation started from 2010. And it's really easy to define that generation, because that's the year Steve Jobs launched the iPad and Instagram was founded. And that says it all. It's a generation of the screen agers. They're just glued to the screen. It's a generation, it's called also Generation Glass. They are, their technology move, they are growing up with digital assistants. They're growing up with all kind of algorithms. And that's really important because our industry is about offering the right choices, not asking the wrong questions to a guest and he's annoyed. And this generation grows up living in a tailored world. When they go to Netflix, they see the selection of their movies based on the history. When they go to Spotify, their music suggestions are based on their listening history. So every choice they see, everything they find online is tailored already. So that brings a higher standard for us to offer only the things they want to see. Otherwise, they're gone. They're not linked into our system. And this must be a relief for a lot of you. Just to scare a few, for all the people who are not used to the millennials yet, Gen Alpha are the kids of the millennials. So get ready for that. But where the millennials and Gen Z are having a hard time making decisions, give a kid of 5 years an iPad, hooking up to YouTube, and he has like not a minute to see if a movie is interesting, not 30 seconds. In a split second, 5 or 10 seconds, they see if a movie is interesting to see or not, and they just move on. And they're really trained in fast making decisions, seeing the first image and then move on. Just imagine how a kid from Gen Alpha is looking at an average hotel video where the camera moves from one room to the other room and seeing the lobby. They are gone within 5 seconds. So redo your communication towards Gen Alpha in their pace is really essential to get their attraction. And it's also the generation which is less social. They're having a hard time being in contact with each other in real life. They can be open and they can be human on a dating platform or online, but being socially interactive in real life is really a challenge for them. And that's where a true differentiator for our industry comes in. Redefining good social spaces to interact with people will be the big differentiator of the hotel industry of tomorrow. And when are they joining us as clients? In 2030, there will be 10%, 11% of the workforce, and so also becoming the guests of the future. What's the impact of the industry? First of all, create a digital entry point. Every entry point, everything you search will start digital. So when you are developing a new concept, please start digital and not developing a concept and afterwards we do a social media campaign. The whole entrance point will be digital. Secondly, customization, personalization of the experience, the room and the service is key. Key because Gen Z is already organized around micro communities. And Gen Alpha is on speed, even stronger than that, because they are grown up in a tailored world already. So the first impression is key, because you're being clicked away in a split second, and they move on to the next one. So get that first digital impression right. And the social space, as said before, will be the differentiator to choose the hotel of the future. But then, speaking a lot of new generations, let's get real. The real generation to focus on in the coming years is the baby boomers and Gen X, who are going to retirement and get a lot of free space and have the money to join. This is not a trend. This is the one thing that's going to happen for sure. But a lot of people are forgetting that. And just to not bore you with statistic, I will put an image in your head that you for sure remember that the older generation is in the lead the coming years. We are moving to the situation of Japan. And in Japan, there are already more diapers sold to older people than to babies. So that's the impact where we are heading for. That are the key lessons from the two generations. And now I have two lessons more for the post-COVID traveler. Because what happened in the last few years is redefining our business as well. Starting out, if we're stripping down the pandemic, if we're stripping down all the loss of people, what's happened in the business industry is the big digital leap forward. And we see that in customer demands, we see that in service models, and we see that in the way work is organized. And how work is organized will be very important for our industry, where we see a merging world of leisure and work. But first of all, I want to start with what I call the brand paradox of hospitality. There was one, we were the industry where location and experience was tied together as one. When you want to have a fine dine experience, you had to go to the restaurant, and you were being served there. And then suddenly we were able to go to that location, and we found out that you can deliver a fine dine experience at your doorsteps as well. Or you can make a do-it-yourself kit and deliver it home. So when you're a strong brand, there's even an opportunity to earn more. Because normally you have 50 couverts in your restaurant, and now you could serve out 200 in a weekend. So combining business models from the lessons from the past is really essential. And not only in delivery industry, but also when you're a strong brand, you can sell your product into local supermarkets. As long as the brand is strong, you can expand to different selling channels. And each hospitality brand will be brought to you on your doorsteps in 10 minutes. And that's interesting, because in the past, we created a flagship restaurant or a flagship hotel to get the experience right, to get the buzz right, to get the target audience in. And what we see now, driven by the delivery industry, you can build the brand virtually. You just start a restaurant, you test out the menu online, you see which items are popular. When your concept is a success, based on that success, you open a restaurant. It's the other way around. You can build your brand virtually and then land into the real world. And we as an industry are pretty good already in targeting on lifestyles, where in the beginning of our industry, everything was based on the quality system, ranking quality on an objective way in a star system. We moved to more differentiation in that quality, and then the big change came. We saw an explosion of brands, not based on quality anymore, but based on lifestyle. And that's the way to go even for the future. If we get the lessons right from the post-COVID world, we see the move from the focus on real estate to the focus on tenants to the focus on real people and lifestyles. We see the shift from single-use hotels to mixed-use hotels to creating true destinations where you want to be a part of. And we see a move from traditional marketing towards creating events, towards creating stories. And if you combine it all, the future of our industry is driven by lifestyle and community building, linking in to the need of facilitating informal contact for the new generations. Last part, and a really important part as well. We saw already that service models are changing, but what is changing as well is the way work is organized. In the past, everybody had to go to the office to be productive, and now we see a new balance between home and the office. And it's redefining work and how we see work, but it redefines also how we see business travel. And we know one thing for sure, that the original budgets based on individual business travel won't bounce back at the same level. If we do nothing, the traditional business hotel won't get the same occupancy rate as in the past. Or we have to redefine a product. And what's changing is in the past, the manager would live in a plane, hopping from country to country, visiting everybody, and being an individual traveler. And what we see now, linking into Gen Z and the focus on the collective, more and more teams are organized as a distributed team. And that can be very effective. Working more hours from home, working more hours abroad, but you have to get the people together to align them on a frequent basis. And what we see is business travel will change from an individual event to a group event. Not on the scale of the traditional conference hotels, not on the scale of the individual business hotel, but somewhere in between. It's the combination of work and leisure. It's the combination of sleep, work, meet, and event. It's not just adding meeting spaces to a hotel. It's about creating a truly good co-working space, combining it with meeting rooms, and combining it with a good restaurant. The good news is people will stay for half a week of a week working and having fun in your hotel. And then workations is been used wrongly in the past as people working constantly in an attractive country from abroad. But what we see now for the big corporates, in their hybrid working policy, every employee is allowed to work 6 weeks or 4 weeks, depending on the company, abroad in another country. So what will happen, even for families with children, they go on holiday, but the first 2 weeks, mom will be working outside of the hotel. Combining children, fun, and work. Then they click out the laptop and email. They have a proper holiday of 3 weeks. And the last week, they stay on the same location, but start working again. So the combination of facilitating work with leisure is a big new market for us. And not only for the individual traveler, but also for families. And we are moving to a world where hospitality will become more hybrid. And the interesting part is the working hours are exactly the opposite of the traditional rush hours of the hotel world. So if you combine during 9 to 5 the busyness of the work and combine it with the busyness and vibration of the leisure and restaurant hours in the evening, you are able to combine business models and not just focusing on putting heads and beds, but focusing on getting the most profit out of every square meter during the whole day. So, just a small summary of how to get the hospitality high for the future. First lesson, create a winning digital impression as a first start, otherwise nobody will find you. Secondly, social spaces will be the key differentiator for every hotel in the future. Strong hospitality brands can be exported and can be not bound anymore to a location. You can get new brands in your hotel formula, or why not expand your hotel operations into an office building? Because everybody knows that hospitality will become more important. Nobody wants to go to a dull office. If you could offer a hotel experience into an office, it will be a big attraction. Business travel becomes less individual and more event-like and more focused on groups. Not the conference size, but somewhere in between. And last but not least, if you see the merging worlds of travel and leisure, there are new opportunities creating a hybrid world. Thank you.